All right, we should be recording. Good morning, everybody. It's April 4th, 2000. Sorry, somebody has their mic on? Or I think Varadarajan? Varadarajan, could you possibly mute your mic?
You can mute him if possible.
Oh, you're right. There we go. Okay.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry, I'm still a little bit sick, guys. I'm feeling better, but my voice is a little out. The agenda I put together for today is, I know we're a little bit behind the other sub-projects. So I saw there was some discussion about who's working on what, and I wanted to clarify that for us, right? We've decided to work on 3, so we have 4 components total. And there was some discussion in the Slack, but I'm not sure what we actually agreed upon. I think that we have onto working on SMF. And I think maybe Steven said UPF.
Yeah, so now, so now it's right now it's on and Varesh working on SMF. Yeah. And then it was me and basically.
So let's do it the right
Danny's
way.
taking over.
You
Yeah,
don't mind,
Danny's kind of taking over. Denise is taking over.
So Tal, if you don't mind, you can open the board I sent you. The chat.
Okay, you already updated it with
Yeah, I think we can see where the status is, and probably we can update the status right there in the Zoom chat. I sent you the link.
Yeah, I also added the link to our
I mean, do you think if we are seeing that if this board is not being reflected properly, we should do that?
Right, we should do that. You're correct.
Is that the right? Can we is that board right, Tal? I mean, if you can show the board and see if it.
Yeah, let's do that. So I can only share, I think, one at the same time. So let me stop sharing that screen and share.
Actually, we were able to see that when we were doing.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you were able to see both the things. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can just share a screen or share windows instead of share a tab, then you can click something and just switch over.
Okay, I was sharing a tab, so I was surprised it was showing the other tab as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
security bug.
Definitely. Okay, I'll have to to notice that. Okay, so right now you can see my other tab.
Can't see anything right now.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So let's edit this. So we have. So you put them in progress, Paula, all of them? I see. Okay.
We can't see anything.
Wait, you said you can't see anything?
We can't see anything.
Just a black screen now.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Zoom. You either work too much or you don't work. How about now?
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
Try switch windows.
Now we can see the
Yeah,
windows.
there you go. Yeah, try switch tab.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Amazing.
All right. Thank you, Zoom.
So just what I did here is based on some of the things that we discussed. I added issues, some design issues, some obviously the controllers for 3 NFs and the operator for the Free5GC, the design and implementation, and then the watcher agent code. Those are the things in essence are there in the board. Is this and based on whatever we discussed, I try to catch up all the chat during this meeting and also in the Slack, and try to assign the people what they're working on. So, and there are a few things that are left. So probably we could do that. First of all, I want to understand if this board reflects correctly what you have in mind at all from the work perspective.
I think this is kind of perfect. What do people think? I think there's a separate issue I saw for the umbrella issue you created for the free 5GC operator, because it seems like we've coalesced around having just one operator for all the network functions in free 5GC.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense. It has its pros and cons we can discuss today. I see you have an issue to do for refactoring the watcher agent code.
Yeah.
There's a separate issue here for design.
Yeah, I think that's why you said in today's call we will do this design discussion of the free 5GC.
Oh, okay.
So I think we can put that in progress, and probably if we are satisfied after today's discussion, we can make it done or something.
Okay, yeah, because it seems like a little bit duplicating 23 here, 75.
No, actually, if you click on the 23, I'll show you how it is organized.
Oh, okay.
It's like an epic. 23 is like an epic.
Excellent, yeah.
And it encompasses all the works, for example, design, all the controllers and everything. And then the individual task is, I just made you the owner of this because you are the SIG head here. So, but the individual issues are assigned to different people.
Excellent. Yeah, I think this is perfect. What do people think? Any comments on Bala's excellent work?
Yeah, Carl, Viresh here. I have shared two issues that Stephen assigned to me. I think, are they reflecting here? To me and
Yeah, I guess
Wait.
not yet, because I just filed them yesterday. I just gave it to folks.
All right, so let's go over them one at a time and make sure they're all correct. So let's start with
Carl, to your point, +1 to looking at the board, because this will become the source of truth. So yes.
exactly. Yeah. No, this is I think from now on this is our board. And in the Slack chat, I added a link to this board at the top, so you can easily access it, I hope.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's start with SMF. So we have it assigned to on2, but we also said that I think Viresh is going to work on it.
this unit test part, I'm not aware of. Maybe controller
not
part.
aware.
Yeah.
Okay, so I won't put you there for now.
Okay.
So you said there is a gap on the unit test part?
Actually,
There's no code yet, so there's no unit test.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
I want to insert myself there to help out.
Oh, okay.
That would be
so
great. That would be great.
There's this separate unit test for the entire operator, right?
Yeah.
Thank
So then Denise is also writing unit tests now for the UPF part. I'm so thankful.
Okay, so let me check.
Yeah,
So
that
let
one,
me check
yeah.
GitHub.
So we can assign multiple people too in that.
Yeah. I
Course,
did that.
So
Yeah. You can do a list.
oh, all right, that worked. And we
Yeah,
should probably
yeah.
also move into in progress because it's
So
being worked.
Vish is also interested?
Yeah, probably we can add Vish to SMF then. That's what he was interested in.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. So Vish, you say
Probably we can add him with the SMF. That's what he wanted to help with the testing. Yeah.
excellent. All right, so UPF. Is that still you, Stephen?
I'm working with Denise to bring him on board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
I'll be there. Yeah.
Okay, and by the way, I did see that we have, so this is the code, but I saw, Stephen, that you created a new repository.
I created a real repository so I talked to Denise and others last week. So the idea is this is POCs. So we're gonna have to move that over to this free 5GC when you have unit test code. But then so the way I sequence it is the first thing you do issue 88, 89, and so on, is that you first have to put a Go structure of the CLs, the CLDs, put that into API. So you're now that you have to refactor the operator code to point to that definition of the CLD.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean. You do want everything in the same repo, right?
So UPF deployment and all the other things are common. Meanings that outside of FreeFileGC, if tomorrow OAI comes in, they would have to support the same set of CLs. So that goes into Nethio API, Nethio project/API. So we have to first, the API. So we'll have to first check in things, check in the
Okay.
CLDs into the API. And then after that, the operator code is now point to the APIs here, the Go structure, not the YAMLs, this Go structure over here. And then that would be a great thing to do. Hopefully by the end of the sprint. So
Okay,
that
is there an issue in another sub-project about that?
For the APIs?
Yeah. Or is that just
It is us.
everybody?
It is us.
It is
So,
us.
so
Okay.
yeah. So we have to define it. We will say that our operators operate on those CLs, and then we'll work with the package specialization team to ensure that they're hydrating down to that.
Let's
So Stefan-
reflect that somehow in an issue here, just to make sure that we can track it.
Yeah. So do you think, thanks, Alan. Do you think that's gonna happen this sprint or next sprint?
So all I'm asking is the API goes in this sprint. The Go struct and everything goes into the API repository by the end of this sprint. That would be great.
Okay.
I think that's probably worthy of a new issue.
I have the new issues.
You have the new issues?
Yeah, I do. So
I think there are some things in the package, in the package.
not for deployments. So they've been doing it for FreeFileGC specific additional packages. So if you look at Vim's documents on the definitions, they are basically just the XXX deployment is basically just UPF is the only thing they define anyway. UPF deployment is basically something that points to capacity, points to a list of interfaces, points to a list of network instances. So we want to define that and put that into the API repository.
Okay.
And then our operators will now be reconciling against that structure. So those are issue number, I believe 86, 88, 89. So if you can take a look at
Okay,
those.
cool. Yeah, if you can point me to that, I can put it in the right.
Yeah,
screen.
let me point you.
Yeah.
In fact, I should do that yesterday.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for creating the issue, Stephen.
Yeah. Yeah, we could probably link them to just some of the issues here. So
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
okay. So we have,
by the way, you can
two
add me
people.
as a reviewer for the API. I have a second question. Sorry to
Sure.
I just raised my hand, but are you also going to make the getters and the setters on these APIs? Are you guys doing that?
That's a very good question. So what's the division of our boundary, I guess, in a way?
No, I'm just asking. That's why I'm asking, because for us it would be useful if they exist. Now the question is who creates them.
That is my question too. So is an expectations that the operator/workload team would actually be doing the packaging and get as a set of getters too, or is it more like we'll inform you an API exists, go figure out how to create them? I have no idea.
We have to decide. I don't mind.
I would suggest.
I don't mind either way too, but I just want to know. I also want to know which subgroup would do that.
It's going to be very easy to write, I think.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe if there's two principles we can apply here. One is that whoever needs it should be the one writing it.
Okay.
So maybe it should be the specialization subproject or whoever made it. But maybe if there's an example of how that getter and setter looks, if there's already some code there, Wim, then that could be used to just duplicate.
There is code for the requirements. In the requirements, you already see code, and the testing, I think, is it a PR at the moment? Still, I think it's still a PR at the moment. There is a PR. Wait, I'll share it in just move on. I'll share it in the chat.
Okay, yeah, we can move that issue to this subproject. that makes sense. Just change the label so that we can do it. I think it makes sense for us to take care of it.
No, no, just to be clear, the PR that I share is not for the NF deployment or the deployment for but it's a PR related to getter and setters on the requirements like capacity. So we created that.
Okay.
It's an example, but nobody on our side is working on the getter and setters for NF deploy at the moment. But I was just referring to the
I mean,
fact
no,
that
it's okay.
there is an
yeah.
example that we have implemented, and I was going to share the link on those. Okay.
By the way, which sub-project owns the NF deploy controller?
The NF deploy, that's me, I think, and then Steven and Aravind are owning that.
Okay.
It's actually
What controller means the thing that runs on the operator that runs on workload cluster?
no.
Oh,
No,
the
no,
controller.
the seed code NF deploy controller. That's what I mean. The mini SO.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah,
Actually-
that's me, unfortunately. Yeah.
Right.
I
but-
welcome anyone else to join in. Actually, I have. I mean, I've been
I'd be
presenting.
happy to help. But,
Yeah,
but
that'd be great. So
my
let's
question
try.
was, where is
which-
it owned by which sub-project?
Yeah, which sub-project?
Wait, so
I'm
I
assuming-
have to correct I was not correct. I think the Edge Watcher is with me, which is a piece of that thing. But we have an agreement that Aravind and Steven and maybe you, Tal, own that. And then NF deploy, in my view, should be in package management, I believe, but I'm not sure whether John is tracking it.
I don't think John is tracking.
Well,
We have to make that visible then. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, you know what? I don't want to forget anything that we're saying here, so it's not directly related to us, but I want to at least create an issue here in the package management. I just want to make sure it's tracked. So we don't, oh, actually there is NF topology controller. It's here and it's done.
Oh, okay.
Is it really done?
I haven't done anything yet, so great.
Let's look at this issue, implement. And it has no assignees. Closing this as we move to using composition.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, this might be this is old. I think this is old.
Either that or we can reopen that too. That's fine.
Yeah, so I'm
think-
going to reopen this and assign it to you, Stephen,
Yeah.
and
thank
we'll
you.
figure out exactly what to.
But I think it's better to create a new issue, I think, Tal, if I'm honest. Because I think John has opinion that the NF topology controller is a package. And I think here we are talking about a controller. So, but
It does say controller.
well, I agree, but there has been reincarnation. So maybe or maybe it's better to discuss in the next meeting that is coming after this to bring it up with John. To be sure.
Okay, we can do that. I just okay, let's do that. Issue number 14. Okay, let's make sure that's not erased. Sorry, it has nothing to do with this sub-project, but we're all working together here. Okay, so so we have 2 people on SMF, 2 people on UPF,
And 2 people in AMF actually. So
okay, so
pretty
I see
pretty well
Vishal.
staffed.
Do you know who else is working on?
So it's Ronak and Vishal. But I couldn't find his handle. I asked him last night, but he didn't reply back. I don't know if Varesh knows. Do you know?
Yeah, Ronak is working.
Ronak is working on it, but then Vishal also supposedly working on it.
Yes.
But then
I'll
I
confirm.
don't. Yeah, can you ask him his GitHub handle because I couldn't find
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's at least listed in the comments, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think first item on the agenda, I think, is clear. We know who's working on what. We have agreed on one controller, I think, for all 3. Is it worth discussing at least? I don't know. You know,
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
advantage.
Mhm.
The advantage,
No,
I think, of having. Okay, go ahead.
I think there was a conversation too on the chat on this. And then I think
Right.
Vim and I make good comments saying that the fact is they're going to different clusters on our test deployment.
Right.
So even if you want to make different operators, that's fine. If not, that's also okay, because it's not like they're very big. So
That's true. I mean, they're not big right now, but let's think ahead. You know, our initial design for these controllers is very bare bones. We're really just thinking of day one. You know, we mentioned some issues in configuration, but you know, this is part of what I want to do today to design and really think about it. But in the future, you know, these are different network functions. I mean, they have very different things that they do. They all come from the same project, but they are different, right? They have a different roles to play in a network service. Now, the code itself, the question of one versus many, I mean, the code could live in separate directories, right? At the end of the day, it's just libraries, it's Go code. You can either wrap it up in one controller or, you know, deploy it. It could be one pod or three, right? That doesn't matter too much, right? You know,
yeah,
I
no,
guess
I mean, for now, it doesn't matter too much. The only thing would be we have to create 3 separate packages on different set of YAMLs, and then we have to, and again, it's not difficult. So we have to selectively know which one to deploy it onto different clusters on the management side.
Well, why? No, I think the point is that if you have a single operator that can reconcile 3 different CRDs, that's not a problem. I mean, it could be just a single pod doing everything. So you would always deploy the same operator. It's just going to be called the free5GC operator. I
So
would say
that's the current thinking. So each of them would come with all 3 controllers on a single operator.
Exactly. Yeah.
But then we could refactor moving forward by making them 3 different operators.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I wanted to make, that this decision isn't permanent. I think even if we have it as a single controller in a single repo right now,
Sure.
in the future, if we feel the need to make it separate, it'll be very trivial to refactor the code.
Right.
So
yeah, other than main.go, almost everything else could just be reused.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, it's all multi-threaded anyway, using Go's multi-threadedness. So it doesn't really matter if you're reconciling 3 CRDs or 1 in a single pod. So I would say, yes, to keep things simple, let's just have a single repo for all 3 network functions right now. Again, the repo right now is totally empty. I want to create another issue here for just creating the
I updated the code just
the
to
reason
just to make
so
sure,
the reason why that repo takes time to get in is obviously we mandated real code needs to have unit tests. so when I wrote the free5GC operator, it had no unit tests, so that needs to be developed.
Yeah,
No.
that's true, Stephen. We need to have the test. I know Sagar is ahead of me. I just wanted to highlight all the issues that is on the thing that was in the chat. I updated it and it's showing up on the board right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can see it happening live while we're talking.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Sagar.
And Sagar, I think he's been hands raised for a while.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, please help me with this, because you know,
sure.
when I'm
I'll do.
looking
Sagar,
at one
please.
screen, I can't see the other. Please
Yeah,
help me.
it's not a big deal. I don't have a really big question. It's just that since we're talking about a bit of a future, and at the moment, Stephen, you have made this repository specially for free5GC, and later on, how are we gonna take care of, for example, right now we have this certain images which we are using for network functions, which comes from Orange, right? We aren't really using the official or any sort of images from free5GC. So if the projects keep on evolving, how are we going to take care of updating?
So creating repositories based on John's other issue. So I just create this because, you know, John proposed it and the community didn't oppose. That's why I put it in. There was another discussion of whether or not we want to have a repo for all different types of 5GC operators. But then for now we're creating one for free5GC. So if we have an OAI one, we probably have to create an OAI repository. And
For
then
that, I mean, I can take care of it at our end also.
Mhm.
I don't have any problem of taking the responsibility for
Right.
that.
Okay.
So I was just saying that how are we gonna manage to change the images and the configuration and everything? You know, later on, if Free5GC changes something in their code base and AMF or SMF, and we can, so you need to change
Oh,
that
so
also.
we don't. So we are
Okay.
supporting a particular version of Free5GC. So if
Okay.
we're creating a new version, then obviously the operator needs to evolve.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that should be, I would hope that would be obvious. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we absolutely have to lock everything at
I
a
would
certain-
hope. Yeah, I mean, so that's what we're
Right.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
part of the read me would be what version of Free5GC we are supporting.
Yeah, and the fact that the YAML would reflect that too.
yeah. Never deploy everything with the
Yeah,
latest.
so if you remember, I think Vim will remember, we separate out the image path into like a Free5GC specialized package instead of UPF deployment. So that one has the path that points to a particular version of the Free5GC package, Free5GC image.
So a little point here, but important.
Mhm.
We under SIG number 3, we discussed naming of our repos.
That's right.
We didn't reach a consensus. I think that's probably something we should.
Well,
know.
I want us to reach a consensus, but no one objected to what John proposed, so we all go with what John had.
Okay, well, in that case, I think we.
I think that's issue number 10. So everyone knows that number very well. So issue number 10 is the one where John has proposed a list of repos.
How do you easily jump to an issue number?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's not in the board actually. We have to go to the issues. Go to the Nephew project. If you go all the way, no, not that one. Go
Nephew,
to
yeah, even the one app before that.
Nephew. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go
Reports,
to
go to the repositories.
you have to go to repos. Yeah,
Reports.
not the issues.
Oh, okay, all right.
Not the orgs.
Yeah, if you go to the Nephew right
The
there.
Nephew repo.
Yeah,
And then
and then
issue
there, if you
number
go- click
10.
on issue, if you go to the issues, yes, here probably you can search better.
You can. It's probably better if you just click on a random one and just change the
that's
URL.
exactly
And
what I
just
want.
change the URL. Yeah,
Right.
10.
Okay,
There you
so
So that one
actually,
is.
I made some comments
Don't
too.
make a very long proposal on what it is. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if that's the case, well, it's a combination of maybe my comment and John's, right? Is that where we're?
Okay. So if you
Um,
if there's anything changes on the operator front, I can adjust the repository.
Right. So I think if John didn't say anything about my comment here, controller, then I think maybe it should be controller
Okay.
dash Free5GC.
Okay, that's fine. Let's do that. Okay.
Because yeah, as you can see, we have a few things called Free5GC. It would be very confusing for somebody who doesn't know.
Because I remember that you talk about you want to prefix them instead of suffix them. So, yeah.
Right. We have Free5GC and Free5GC packages. I mean, so it should be catalog dash Free5GC and controller dash Free5GC, right?
Okay.
I
mean, Free5GC is empty, so we can change it. So I mean,
Yeah.
Vim, we can ask Vim if he has any opinions on changing that repository name.
Well, maybe under SIG number 3, we finalize the name of. The thing is, I'm worried about. It was so hard to find the issue. We're getting a lot of emails. I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to have a say. So yeah, the issues are very important, but we're also having these meetings too. So during the meetings, I think should be room for people to discuss and make comments. So maybe for the next number 3 meeting, we can put it as an agenda item to finalize the name of the repositories, because we don't want to keep renaming them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So where were we? Back to sorry. Oh, I'm tired of coughing. By the way, under resources in our agenda document, I made sure to capture everything from Orange. So you can see their towards 5GS project, what they call it, their Helm charts, which includes Free5GC and UE Ransom. And, they forked, so enhanced Nephew Summit. So maybe add here that this is forked. So they forked our Summit code and enhanced it a little bit.
Yeah, because it has a bug in there. So I asked Denise to add that back in when he moved the code into operator dash
Oh,
35GC.
so was it merged back? Was there a pull request back to our summit?
No, there wasn't. So they did it on their own. So Orange
Oh.
didn't do anything in terms of putting anything into Nephew.
Okay, but they only worked on UPF here in this.
Well, because we only had UPF.
Okay. All right. So you're aware of this? Should we make sure that there's a link to this too in our
Okay. Yeah.
here? I'll
Yeah.
make
So
sure.
they make that change on the security context.
So
That was my fault. I missed it.
see also run. Oops. All right. There you go. Okay, and the kept packages, yeah. All right, I think that should be enough. So I think, you know, it seems that we're de facto standardizing on KubeBuilder for operators.
For R1, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, for R1 at least. There have been discussions, you know, I think John mentioned that even within the Google group, there's been rumblings, there are different opinions. There's also about how to use KubeBuilder a little bit, right? But it seems that for now, let's not rock that boat. We're just going to continue using KubeBuilder. The issue with KubeBuilder is that people who've played with it know that it generates a lot of tests for you, and it's very opinionated about the test framework. I want to make sure that we make deliberate decisions. Let's not just use the tests because KubeBuilder creates them for us. I have a lot of issues with the framework that it picked. And I want to make sure that in SIG number 3, we're making a deliberate choice over which test framework we want to use, right? Not just because it's a default, that doesn't mean it's necessarily good for us.
Right. Vish has his hands up. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Vish, please.
Yeah. So I was waiting for you to finish your thought. What are two things? One is, what are the options other than KubeBuilder out there?
Right.
It's a very good question.
Write a controller with no helpers. So that's actually a pretty classic way.
Okay.
And then we have the operator framework too, right?
Yeah, operator SDK is at its core is basically just KubeBuilder also. So
yeah, it's based on KubeBuilder, but it does add quite a lot to KubeBuilder.
Okay.
There's also another option of, so KubeBuilder internally uses something called a controller runtime that actually does most of the work. You could write code using controller runtime on yourself. So it's like building it from scratch, but using controller runtime. Actually, that's, I think, what John said that a lot of people have moved to using. So you're using basically the same underlying code that KubeBuilder does, but you're not using KubeBuilder to actually kind of build your whole scaffolding for the project. But you know what, this is not, so this should be the sub project where this is going to be discussed, right? I would love for this sub project to also include an operator SDK. I will say that there are some people looking also at writing operators using Python, right? There's a pretty great library called KOPF, K-O-P-F, which is kind of an SDK for writing operators in Python. I think it has a lot of promise. So I know somebody's looking into it and might make a presentation at some point. But all of this is for the future, right? For R1, we really don't want to change from what we have now. So I think we're going to just stick to KubeBuilder. But I want to make sure that we're not just rolling ahead with a de facto decision. So if anybody has any comments about that, please, you know. Vish, you still have your hand up. I don't know if it's from.
Yeah. I have another question. So what is the test? What kind of tests that KubeBuilder generate that you were mentioning?
Yeah, I'm forgetting the name of the framework. Does somebody remember? It's something that begins with G.
Gringo.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Thank
you.
Right,
that's my questions.
Yeah.
I think to your point, Charles, we need to consider different options. Based on, I have not used operator SDK recently. Based on your experience, Charles, do you think it's superior to the? I know it's hard to use Queue Builder, but does it add a lot of value add?
You mean the testing framework?
No, not the testing framework. In terms of code generation and the operator SDK, does it make life easier?
Well, sure it does. The question is, here's the thing about making things easier that we know there's always technical debt, right? Whenever something else handles something for you, then you're putting control to that other thing. So yeah, Queue Builder does a lot of things at the end of the day, Queue Builder can be very, very simple because it basically does everything for you, and all you need to do is insert your reconciliation code. But that means that everything else is according to the opinion of Queue Builder. I think Queue Builder really applies to very specific kinds of controllers, ones that have that very straightforward reconciliation loop of here's a CRD, it changes, and what do you do with that CRD? But I can tell you that I've written a lot of controllers that do not have that exact logic. I personally always do not use Queue Builder. It's not so much Queue Builder that I find a problem with, it's the controller runtime underneath that I feel is just far too opinionated. Let's table this discussion. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said here. And we also, one of the missions of Nefio is to create an SDK to make it easier for network function vendors to build operators and onboard them into Nefio. But we all know here that we haven't really talked about this so far in Nefio. I mean, other than hand waving. As I said, there's also interest in Python controllers, there's Java controllers. An SDK from Nefio, should it be very opinionated about one language, several languages? What makes it special about going into Nefio? What are the best practices that we want to apply here, right? So there's a lot to say about this, and we're just not going to do it right now. But I just wanted to make sure that we're all okay with the idea of using Queue Builder. And for good or for ill, for R1, I think it'll do the job.
Yeah, if you want to discuss controllers, Tal, if you look to my function controller, it's also an approach to make it easier to write controllers.
Yeah.
So if you look
right,
to
those are for the management cluster, right?
No, you can use it for no. The function controller itself it's built on controller runtime with the goal to make it very easy to write a controller, and it uses a function decomposition that and it has nothing to do. You can use it in the management cluster, you can use it in the workload cluster, but and you can each of these functions you can implement in any language you want. So and it's but it's actually a layer on top of controller runtime, and as you basically decompose it, you can write in Python. You actually can write some of these functions not even with code.
Okay, do you know that there's already a project from the Queue Builder team that does that?
Yes, yeah, and I'm working with them on that.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, again, this is a very big topic, so we'll table it to the future, I think, when we discuss it more. I guess the reason I want to put it right now is that let's be careful about. Actually, there's really nothing we can do at this point. So we're building upon Queue Builder, and it is what it is. If in the future we decide to use a different operator framework, then we can deal with that. The operator SDK, that's part of the Core OS stuff that builds upon this. So it's also something worth looking into, because the operator SDK comes with a very comprehensive lifecycle management of operators. That is, it gives you ways that you can subscribe to channels for upgrading operators. And you know, it's very feature rich. That's maybe something that folk at Red Hat could potentially tell us about in the future. But again, yeah, jumping ahead, Queue Builder for now, and probably just using the tests that are built into Queue Builder. I just want to make sure that SIG number 3 knows them and makes a deliberate choice that we'll do that for now. Maybe in the future we'll change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In terms of our functionality, again, it's really, really basic. We've had almost no discussions about day 2 changes, right? We're kind of assuming, okay, there's a single CRD, single CR per deployment. And the moment the CR appears, we're basically generating the resources to deploy. And for day 2, we're not really sure. Are we going to destroy pods, recreate them? So this is something I think we need to discuss. I don't think we're really going to do the complete design now today, and I don't think we really have to. I think we can start writing code and then talk about day 2 later, how day 2 reconciliation happens. And you know, we have to emphasize that for R1, we're doing everything shift left, right? So we're assuming that the CR will include our complete configuration. This is something I asked about in the sub-project specialization meeting, I think 2 meetings ago. There are a lot of meetings there. So a vision that I have for this, if you're doing another, so to create a proper, truly cloud native implementation of an operator, you would want an operator that knows how to orchestrate itself. That is, it knows how to configure its own resources as much as it can. So it can do its own discovery locally for things like IP addresses. So, you know, if it's running in a cluster that needs to know IP addresses of other things, it can query them directly, right? So you can have a set of operators that know how to talk to each other. My point is that for day 1, there could be a separate phase, configuration discovery, and only then create the resources, right? So point is there can be much more sophisticated, the LCM could be much more sophisticated than just like, hey, take a CR, create resources. Which is what we're doing now. Which is why really our operators right now are very trivial, right? There's no doubt about that. It is what we have for R1 because we just don't have a use case right now that is richer than that. But I just want people to keep in mind that we can do more in the future.
Yeah, my only remark there, Tal, is we have to not break the principles of Nephew, which is a workload cluster should not be dependent on anything else.
What do you mean anything else?
So the workload cluster, if you look to the Nephew charter, right? A workload cluster is an independent thing that acts upon itself. So if you want to operate in a mode that you have to reach out to other spaces to be able to do the job, I think you're violating the charter.
What do you mean other spaces? It's in the cluster, right? I'm not sure
what I'm saying is that, yeah, if you are going to, let's say, reach out, what you're saying is you want to reach out to stuff, right? What is that? And if you're going outside of your boundary, so some of the things, let's say, take a use case. If you have an SMF on workload cluster A and a UPF on workload cluster B, to be able to get information on the UPF from that other workload cluster, if you...
Oh, okay, you mean other clusters. You mean other clusters.
Yeah, which is basically the thing that we have to deal with, right? Well,
it depends on your exact configuration. I mean, you can have all of these in a single CU. I mean, if this is a multi-cluster workload, I mean that is a different issue, right? But
that's the scenario we are operating on today, right?
Well, yeah, but this is not our only use case, right? For R1, we have one use case. we're hoping to.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that I want to. You can do other stuff, but we have to look at it as a whole, not just in isolation. Okay.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand what you mean. Isolation versus.
Yeah, so in isolation, meaning see what we did for R1, right? We built an architecture that works, let's say, end to end. So that means you can have workloads on cluster A, on cluster B, on cluster C, and they all get it. So that's why we opted for shift left, because we hydrate all the information on the management cluster, and then the workload cluster basically act upon the result that was, let's say, reconciled or whatever you call it, right? So it's simple, and that's also a good thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, Well, yeah, but we're doing so little in R1. I mean, this is part of the issue. I mean, our whole
Also, I
deployment
mean,
here is almost
but
trivial. Right?
we can do lifecycle management. So for example, if you say, okay, we want to do change, we can do that, right? If you want. And
Right.
with
I mean, we have to
architecture
make
which you have,
decisions.
with the
We have the
architecture. What I'm trying to say is, that getting all the information from the management cluster is a good architecture.
Yes, for some things without, you know, you're talking about the general idea of doing shift left configuration. Yes, some things are very good to do in advance. Some things are impossible because they're related to the living and changing environment of the workload cluster, right? Changes that happen in day 2. Right.
But we have to be concrete of what that is, and then because if you make it generic, you can basically say anything on that statement. But let's be specific of what you have to solve, and then let's figure that out. Okay, making a generic statement doesn't help us, I think.
Oh, I mean, I can go in a lot of detail here, right? I'm just not doing it right now. We have the whole idea of you know, Motus management, top of the rack switches. It really depends a lot on these day 2 changes that we haven't talked about a lot. I mean, we have a mechanism right now that you could potentially do everything shift left because we have the watcher agent. So we can take data from the cluster that changes, right, and bring it back to the management cluster. But then we're replicating the centralized orchestration that any other project does, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, okay, when we can talk about this.
Let's make it concrete is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Sure, I'm not making it concrete at all. This is definitely abstract, right? I'm talking about how an operator could potentially work, right? So my point is that before you actually create your resources, you could do things that are useful for actually creating those resources. Right, okay. And there are configurations that you know in advance that are part of your site inventory, everything else. Again, our use case right now is so trivial that there's just not a lot of interesting configuration generally. Right, we have just IP addresses basically for how to connect to other components. But Free5GC is very, very simple, and there's just not a lot going on. Okay, well, we'll see about this in the future. I think what could be interesting here is, well, we'll get to the actual, once code starts coming in, maybe I can make some comments on how we can leave room as a placeholder for this extra phase, even though we're not doing anything interesting right now. Okay, I really don't think there's too much more to say about the design at this phase because it's so simple, but if somebody wants to chime in and with thoughts.
Yeah, so for the day 2, right? There is not in this sprint, but there is a possible story coming where at least there were 2 day 2 operations that was in the wish list of SIG 1. That is change the capacity of user plane and then they change the capacity of control plane. I think they were talking about both vertical and horizontal scaling. Obviously, I don't think we are going to do anything with the vertical scaling. I don't think why I'm not even sure why that story was there.
Yeah. So that was, I think that was being talked about too on the regular SIG2 meeting a long time ago. That was the CPU and memory change was kind of silly.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree, totally agree. So we will be, I think there is at least one story in plan of scaling out at least the user plane or control plane that may be a day 2 operation that may be in the scope for R1. That's I wanted to say that. So
the capacity change is a use case 2 and 3 is what Pala is referring to, which is correct.
Yeah.
So capacity change.
One of them is adding a UPF, which is relevant. I don't know if we are going to do it for R1, but we'll try to do it for R1.
So I mean, actually there are two candidates. I mean, capacity increase the capacity of control plane and then increase the capacity of user plane. At least 2 there are 2. I mean, out of 2, we may do 1 for our 1, or we may do 2. I mean, depending on how it's gonna pan out in the next couple of months.
Yeah, if you look to John's tracking overall, there is
Yeah.
4 use cases that we were defined at the moment for R1. Still the goal is to do 3 of the 4 at the moment.
3 after 4. Thank you.
But the 2 changes is capacity change and the ID. I think it's, yeah. I mean, we discussed vertical or horizontal. I think at some point we said, okay, let's start with vertical or something like that, right? But where we change the spec of a pot.
So
My understanding, Wim, is that we choose like we will only do horizontal. I mean, that's my understanding.
Okay. I don't 100% correct, but yeah, there is a capacity change thing to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think when we talk about a SIG 2 meeting, again, that's like a while back, 3 months or so probably back. We didn't. So right now we don't expose CPU memory type things to be configurable by the users. If it does, it exposed the idea that for each vendor, each pod, they have to let people know how to configure them, which isn't feasible moving forward. Not even pod actually. You have to. The CPU memories are a container specification. So they have a specific container in a specific pod. Want to adjust their resource utilizations. That seems pretty silly. I think we all agree that this isn't going to happen.
So there are a whole bunch of issues there with that kind of change, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I don't know how far we're going to go with R1, but one issue is what to do with the whole porch shift left dance, because does that mean that a new version is going to be bumped for the deployment?
See, how we implement is our choice, right? What you'll get from us is you get a new capacity.
Yeah. For us,
Right,
the only you can do is to adjust capacity, and it goes without saying that if you change container spec, you have to kill the pod and then restart it.
And that could be an approach for R1, which is okay, right? So where we say you just reboot. I
mean, there's no other way to do it anyway for free.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Even if you just change configurations, I have to reboot. So, oh well.
Well, yeah, definitely not good enough for production deployments.
Oh yeah, no.
So, yeah, I mean, it could be that we just kill the pod and recreate it with the same, with a new configuration. I mean, that could be it.
So another day 2 configuration is adding UPF to an existing SMF. I mean, even that will require a reboot, as I understand.
Right. I mean, a lot of these have to do with a specific way in which Free5GC operates. I mean, maybe we want to make sure to wait until connections are closed and not kill existing connect. There are a lot of issues here, right? But let's, yeah, it depends on also on Free5GC's capabilities, really. I mean, what happens when you can, if it even allows dynamic changes to its configuration. So I just don't know. Okay, I think we're just about out of time. I think we're in a good place right now. I think the board is looking good, and people can start working. I think there's going to be some issue with coordinating pull requests to the main Free5GC repo, whose name is going to change. We don't have any pull requests for that yet, right? I think everybody is working independently in POC mode right now.
Yeah, as I said, for this week, if folks can just put the structure into API, that would be great. The sprint ends this week, right? I think. So by the end of the sprint,
next Wednesday.
Oh, next week. Okay.
Yes.
Well, then maybe we can do a little more. But
okay.
Yeah.
So let's all use Slack just to. I mean, we can use GitHub, of course, for all of this, but let's also use Slack to kind of coordinate among ourselves and make sure we're not stepping on each other's feet doing pull requests.
Next Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm not sure. Maybe Tuesday. Yeah.
What is Tuesday?
When is the sprint ending? When is the 10th? It ends on 10th. When is
Monday.
Oh, Monday, yes. It ends on Monday.
And Monday is a holiday for some people, I guess. Is that true?
Oh, is it? Not for us.
Or is it this Friday?
No, not for us.
It's a holiday in most of
Easter.
it's a holiday in most of Europe.
Oh, I
Oh,
see.
okay, in
Oh,
Europe,
I
yeah,
see.
that's what I
Yeah,
remember. Our
So I'm not a huge fan of agile, but let's at least take the sprint idea. It doesn't mean that people have to kill themselves to get things done by the end of the sprint.
No,
Sprint
no.
is really
Yeah,
a management window for us. Yeah,
totally
whatever
agree.
gets done in the
This is-
sprint gets done. If it's
This
not,
is
it'll move to the
for
next.
this is for the visibility and coordination. If the work
Yeah.
doesn't get done, we'll move to the next sprint. That's it.
Yeah, don't worry. Tuesday is not a deadline.
Exactly. There is no deadline. Let's try to get this done. If it doesn't get done, we'll do it in the next sprint.
Yeah,
So we can roll it into an next sprint if it doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
This
Yeah.
is mainly for coordination and visibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, you guys notice I don't have anything assigned to me. I'm doing that on purpose because I want people to participate.
There is one thing on the left that is big item assigned to you, Aptal. Second one.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Well-
we can move to the next sprint. I'm thinking we will not be able to do it this sprint, right? We'll move to the next sprint most likely.
Yeah, it could be. I'll discuss this with Stephen as well, because I would say that Stephen and me. Stephen, if that's okay, I'm gonna add.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, it's okay.
Oops,
I mean,
that's.
I'm hoping this just works, but then again, we have to coordinate with with me and me and Arwen on the edge clusters,
Yeah.
and making sure that the
Probably
channels open. That because Watcher Edge runs on the workload clusters,
Yes,
and there
three.
is
Try with
there's
the
connectivity is in place for Edge Watcher to talk to them.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much. See you in the next meeting.
Cool. Thanks, Tal.
Thank you.
Stephen, thanks, man. Yeah.
Bye.